Hello again. This is Devon Carter from Crosssite Consulting, back with another part of the security awareness training. Right now, we're about to cover probably my favorite section of the training, which is cyber attacks. Okay, this is my favorite part of the training because I think this is the part that will be most beneficial to you. It will make you understand what kind of attacks are available or that people are running against users. Hopefully, it'll help you to be on the lookout for things so that you're more aware and so that you can kind of more easily spot when somebody's trying to do something nefarious from on your network or your computer and things like that. Um, this this next slide, this next slide is basically anatomy of a hack. Okay, so what was done is a friend of mine actually made this slide a few years ago, and it was specific to the target attack. I'm sure you guys remember the target attack from a few years ago. A bunch of stuff was stolen, exfiltrated out to some bad guys in Russia, and it was just a big mess. It cost Target millions upon millions of dollars. Okay, so this anatomy of the hack basically just details step by step what the attackers did in order to initiate and complete that hack. So basically what happened was a third-party vendor for Target, okay, was hit with a phishing email, okay? Now, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but a phishing email is basically when you get those emails from, from people who are trying to get you to click a bad link to steal your information or infect you with a virus. What they're doing is they're phishing. They're sending out an email in hopes that they can hook you into clicking the link and therefore being infected with a virus or something else. Okay, so in this instance, a third-party contractor, which happened to be the HVAC vendor company, I believe, was hit with a phishing email. He clicked on the link and was infected by the bad guy's virus. When the third-party vendor then connected to the contractor portal, the virus was able to jump from his computer to the third-party portal. Okay, this was the leg or the opportunity for the bad guys to get from the external network through this firewall here into the internal network of Target. So they used the contractor portal and were able to use that to hop into the retail network's file server. Why is that? Because that server had a communication path to this file server that sits inside of Target's network. Once there, they did some searching and found out that, hey, there is a point of sale system available to us that we can infect. So they infected it. And once they infected it, what they did was, honestly, it was kind of slick. They figured out that they could pull the credit card stripe data from everybody who paid for something at Target. They can pull it from the RAM of the computer, of the point of sale system. RAM is your memory on your computer, right? So anything that is done or actively being done on the computer is pretty much done in RAM. And so it stores all that data, those credit card transactions there. So they were able to scrape or pull that data from RAM on that point of sale system. Once they did that, they sent all that data to, back to that retail server that they initially used to gain access to the point of sale. Why did they do that? Well, because it's all internal. Nobody would notice that. They should have noticed, but they didn't notice. Once they got it to the retail Windows file server, they then sent that data or exfiltrated that data back out to their own servers, the own bad guy servers out in Russia. So that's basically what happened, okay? Now, this next portion here, this is actually a pre-recorded demonstration that I did a few weeks ago in preparation, obviously, for this presentation. And what I wanted to show you basically is how easy it is to pull information, okay? It's very easy to capture credentials. It's not anybody doing anything, a lot of hard work anymore. Things have been made very easy. So I will let the video explain, and I'll pick back up after it's done. Is a demonstration of just how easy it is for hackers or attackers to steal your credentials. And the reason why this is important, the reason why I want to do this is because most businesses, especially small businesses, are under the impression that it takes a long time to steal credentials. It's really hard work to hack and do all those types of things. But in actuality, it doesn't take much effort on the part of the attacker. And so I think it's important that you kind of see that so you understand that you are a target. It's not that hard for them to get your information. They're not going to be spending hours on it. In fact, sometimes they can spend as little as 5, 10, 15 minutes. So what I want to demonstrate for you is something, basically I'm on a virtual machine using a tool called Kali Linux. This is a freely downloadable, basically an operating system that has all kinds of applications built into it for hacking for bad guys or penetration testing for good guys. We have vulnerability analysis. Why is that good for a bad guy? Well, they can find the vulnerabilities in your system and know how to hack it. Why is it good for a good guy? Well, we can use this to find the vulnerability and try to fix them so that you're less susceptible to being attacked. In this instance, we're going to use something called the social engineering tools. We're going to go to set, basically the social engineering toolkit, and we're going to do something very simple, very quick, and I just want to show you how this thing could work. So we're going to do, look at it, it's menu driven almost, okay? We have, get rid of that, sorry. We have social engineering attacks. We click 1, go there. We're going to do a website attack vector. So we click 2. And then we're going to do a credential harvester. Okay, credential harvester. And what we want to do is we want to do a site cloner. Now, what a site cloner is we're going to put in basically a website that we want to clone, so we can trick people into putting in their credentials, and then we get to capture their credentials. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do is hit 2 for site cloner. What it's doing now is giving me the IP address of where I would need to go to. The IP address of where I would need to go to view the site cloner once we get it set up. It's asking me, okay, what URL do I want to clone? So we're going to do http www.facebook.com. Okay. Press return. Okay, so now we're going to go pull up the website here. So then we're going to go to 10.0.2.15. Look at that. That page look familiar to you? We didn't have to do anything except type in the URL of what we wanted it to clone. So let's put in an address and a password. Okay. All right, we're going to click log in. Don't say it. Notice nothing happened. Okay? So let's minimize this and let's go back here. Okay? Go back here. It says you're finished, able to generate a report. So let's see if we can figure out where the username and password is. Okay? Let's see. Sometimes it can be a little tricky to get. Here it is, right here. See that? And so imagine if you have this happening, you send out a phishing email, and you send out a phishing email, and you put a link in the email that goes to that website because it actually do something for Facebook or Amazon or anything. And guess what? They're sitting here just harvesting your credentials. And typically, unfortunately, people use the same credentials for multiple websites. And so now they're going to have access to multiple accounts, maybe even your bank accounts, right? So that is why I wanted to show this demonstration, let you know how easy it could be for them to capture your data. Okay, it's not a hard thing to do. All right, thank you. There's a demonstration of just how. All right, so there you saw it. Okay, that was basically how easy it is for someone to basically clone a Facebook login page. So they can send you a link with that URL, that fake URL. And if you're not paying attention, you click on it, you put in your login credentials, and now they got you. And so that is that should hopefully open your eyes so that you understand that you know, nobody is spending hours and hours trying to hack you. It is now very easy. And so you are now more vulnerable and more susceptible to being hacked. And that goes for small businesses, okay? Because for a long time, people felt like, oh, I'm a small business. Nobody's going to spend the time to hack me. Well, guess what? It's not taking a lot of time anymore, and you're easier targets because small businesses do not have the resources to dedicate to secure themselves properly. So now on this slide we're looking at, these are different attack types. A couple of these are going to be a little bit complex, and I'm going to try to keep it high level, but I just want you to, again, this is for awareness so that you'll be aware of what's going on, okay? All right, so the first one is a denial of service attack. Okay, denial of service attack, the goal of this is not always to steal information, okay? Primary goal of this is to interrupt service. Okay, if you flood your website with more traffic than it's able to handle, you overload the website server, and it would be nigh impossible for the website to serve the content of visitors. So they're just trying to negatively impact your business. Now, we don't see these a lot anymore, but they do still happen. A couple years ago, I was running a conference in Raleigh. We were dependent upon a web-based service. Well, that day, some hackers decided to perform a denial of service attack against our website's vendor, the people who we were using for our service. Well, they literally took that service offline, and it greatly impacted our conference. Okay, we had some very unhappy attendees because we were unable to provide services because of that denial of service attack. So it does happen. Man in the middle attack. So this is an attack, as you can see, where the bad guy inserts himself in the middle of a good communication stream, right? So you're trying to browse to a website, and what they've done is they've inserted themselves in that communication path, and so now they can basically see everything that you're doing. And the really slick part about this, so to speak, is because it's going through them, they get it before it actually gets to the website. So what in actuality what's happening is they're getting your traffic, seeing it, and then they're forwarding it on to the website. And you can't tell what's happening in the middle, okay? So that's a man in the middle attack. Now you see these sometimes in public places, okay? Those are where you typically see these, in public places. So you go to Panera Bread, or you go to some coffee shop or something like that, and you're accessing the internet, there could be somebody sitting in there that is using a man in the middle attack on people in that room, and you would never know, okay? You would never know. So that's a man in the middle attack. Phishing and spear phishing. We talked about this a little bit already during the demonstration. Phishing attacks, when they attempt to bait you into performing an action that will enable his or her ability to exploit your computer, okay? Phishing emails, fake phone calls, or phishing calls to try to hook you or bait you into doing something that will give them leverage and allow them to pull your data. The concerning thing here is that phishing attacks are still have a high success rate, right? So think about that. If you're a 3-person company, statistics show that somebody in that company is going to click the phishing email, okay? And if one person clicks, the whole company is impacted, because all the bad guy's going to do is get access to that one person's computer and use that to leverage its way onto other computers and potentially the server in your business. And once they have access to the server, it can be a really bad day, okay? Drive-by downloads. Hackers look for insecure websites. So this should tell you that you need to be careful of the websites you visit. Only go to, well-known websites. Now, that's not to say that they don't get attacked either, but they typically have a more vested interest in protecting against it. So usually they work hard to secure it and things like that, okay? And basically what happens here is they infect the website or insecure website with a malicious script, okay? And they put it into the type of code that when you browse there, it will automatically and directly download that malicious information onto your computer, right? And the concern, or the really concerning part is that in some cases, you don't even have to click anything on the web page, okay? Or in some cases, it may just redirect you to a bad site, okay? So there's a couple of ways they can do that. So drive-by downloads. Password attacks. Now, these are pretty simple and self-explanatory. You have dictionary attacks. That's just somebody trying to use every word in a dictionary to see if they can figure out what your password is. They have ways where, cracking security questions, which is actually not hard. This is for password resets. Sometimes you have to reset your password and you got to answer those security questions. Well, if people can find out basic information about you on the internet, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or whatever, then a lot of times they have a much easier time at guessing what the answers to your security questions are, and then they can reset your password to something that they can use to gain access to your account. Using simple passwords. You should never use simple passwords. It should be complex. Reuse of password. This happens a lot because people don't like to memorize new passwords or a password for each and every site they visit, because that seems like it's too much. Social engineering, right? Trying to talk to you and learn more about you so they can try to figure out your password based on the information you provide. Maybe looking over your shoulder to type in your password. Just all types of things that will, through social situations where they can use that to gain access to or gain knowledge of what your password is. Now, password attacks, hopefully these should be becoming obsolete. That's the hope. Why? Because you should be using two-factor authentication. What is two-factor authentication? I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. Okay, two-factor authentication is where you require 2 pieces of information to get into your computer or your network. So it's something something you have, or something like that. So think about it like this: when you use your ATM card, okay, the ATM card is something you have, right? Then you had to put in a PIN word or a PIN number, and that's something you know. So that would be 2 factors in order to authenticate. You can do the same thing with getting into your network. You can have a password, and then you can have the system email you a code that you would have to put in that would validate you. And that would be 2 things, okay? SQL injection attack. Now this is a bit complex, and I'm just going to keep it high level. So that website that you go to, Amazon, every time you go to that Amazon website, all you're seeing is basically the web page, the front end page that all the users see. Well, behind the scenes, they're probably using something called a database. Now the database is what actually houses all of the information that's important to you, that allows you to search and get pricing and all that stuff, right? This attack is geared towards getting to that backend database. So what they do is they will put certain commands into fields on the front end web page in hopes that it would trigger the database in the back end to spit out good data that they can use to attack you, right? Does that make sense? So in essence, they're just trying to trigger something to happen on that back-end database. All right. Now, this typically happens when you have a poorly designed application. Okay, poorly designed database. Okay, this is not something that you, as the end user, will look to fix. This is something that the company should have taken care of. But I wanted you to be aware of it. The next one is kind of complex as well. It's called cross-site scripting attack. Cross-site scripting attack. So the perpetrator discovers a website having a vulnerability and enables script injection. Okay. The perpetrator injects the website with a malicious script that steals the visitor's session cookie. Okay, what's a session cookie? Well, every time you go to a website, it creates a session or a session cookie, which basically it collects little pieces of data about you. That's how every time you go to Amazon, they always know what you're looking for because they're collecting cookie data or data in cookies that can track what you're doing, what you're searching for on the internet. For each visit to the website, the malicious script is activated, right? And then the visitor session cookie is sent to the perpetrator, okay? Now, because they have access to that session cookie, it may give them access to your session that you're using, okay? And what does that do? That means that if you have your credit card account there, or if you have personal information, financial information, they may be able to gain access to it. Okay, so that's a cross-site scripting attack. Now, malware attack. This is something you should be familiar with. This is talking about basically what you've always heard about, viruses. Everybody calls everything that happens on the computer a virus. Okay, it's actually malware or malicious software, malware. It refers to various forms of harmful software, such as viruses or ransomware. Once malware is on your computer, it can wreak all sorts of havoc. Okay, they can take control of your computer. Okay, they can send all your credentials from your computer to their website or to their server so they can have it later and they can resell it on the internet. There's all kinds of things they can do with malware. Okay. Now, ransomware is the big one right now. Okay, ransomware is the big one. Everybody's talking about ransomware. Why? Because it is pretty nasty. Okay, so just think about ransomware as like, you remember those old movies when they hold people for ransom and they want you to pay? Well, in this instance, they're not holding people, they're holding your data. Okay, so what happens is they infect you with the malware we just covered in the last slide, and that malware initiates an encryption. Okay, it'll encrypt all your data in the background. And then when it's ready, it's gonna lock down all your data and it's gonna pop up a screen just like you see over here to the right. And it's gonna basically try to make you pay in order to regain access to your own data. They're holding your data for ransom. Okay, now this is happening more and more. It's very lucrative for bad guys. They're doing their research. They go so far as to research their targets ahead of time so they'll know how much they can afford to pay, so they know what to ask for in the ransomware attack. So these guys, they're taking some time, they're doing some research to figure out the best way to get money from you, okay? Now, there were some recent attacks that I just wanted to mention. The North Carolina Bar Association, I believe back in September, they experienced a ransomware attack. It took them down for quite a while, at least a couple of weeks, and it took them quite a while to recover. They had some issues with backups and things like that. It was just a really, really ugly attack. It was, WRL News and everything like that. Orange County. Now, Orange County's been hit several times over the past few years with ransomware attacks. And it's, obviously, it takes them offline. They've had issues with being able to get access to tax records and the tax office, the regular recording of deeds office. Just all kinds of things have just been really halted and destroyed because of ransomware. This Lincoln County Sheriff's Office also hit by ransomware, but what this ransomware did in their instance was really, really nasty because they were able to go in and destroy all of the backups, right? All the backups of the data they had. They destroyed all the backups and then encrypted the data that was on the server. So that means that the sheriff's office, they couldn't just say, hey, screw it, and rebuild all the servers and restore from the backups. They didn't have any backups anymore. So, I mean, that was a really nasty one. So, as I mentioned that, how do you protect against ransomware? Another great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay. Backups. Okay. Now, in this instance with the sheriff's office, they had on-site backups. What I'm going to recommend is a cloud-based backup. Backup to the cloud. Why? Because there's less susceptibility for a local attack on your local network, being able to go and also lock down your data in the cloud so that you can have the ability to restore. Because the only way to defend against ransomware is, first, don't get infected by ransomware, okay? And then second, if you do get infected by ransomware, you have to have good backups, because all you can do is wipe your computers and restore from those backups, and then hopefully that won't take too long and won't interfere with your business too much, okay? Now, this is a term, hopefully you don't think it's too funny, electronically transmitted disease, okay? I did a search online for it, and the only place I found this term used is on Urban Dictionary. And basically, as you can see here, it says the contraction of any form of malware on a computer as a result of searching or accessing pornography from your computer or mobile device, okay? Now, I want to make this use of this term a little more broad. Okay, not just going to pornographic sites, but any sites that is sketchy. Okay, some people like to download free data, free movies from these different websites. Well, you know the old saying, nothing in this world is free. Okay, if they don't charge you for anything that you're doing, then guess what? You're the commodity. Okay, your computer is the commodity. The information you hold on your computer is the commodity. And so you need to be aware that you can catch an electronically transmitted disease. Now, you may be asking yourself, why did I want to use this term? Well, if you really think about it, electronically transmitted diseases can be similar in operation to a sexually transmitted disease. If you go to an unclean network, you may catch something. If you connect with too many people or too many computers, right, you may catch something. If you connect with the wrong computer, you may catch something. Even if somebody just uses a thumb drive and plugs into your computer, if that thumb drive is infected, guess what? You may have just contracted an electronically transmitted disease. Okay, so I just wanted to try to come up with an easy way to think about it so that you will just know your status. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for using that. But know your status, okay? How do you know your status? Be aware of what you're doing on the internet, okay? Be aware of the websites that you're visiting. Be aware of what you're plugging into your computers. Be aware of what you're doing, right? If your computer, if you notice there's a difference in the way your computer is functioning from one day to the next, that may be an indication of something that's going on. If your computer's been operating with no problems for the last weeks or months or forever, and all of a sudden, man, it's running slow all of a sudden, then you might want to think about, what did I visit yesterday that I may not normally do? Okay, I may have contracted an electronically transmitted disease. And at that point, you need to be running your virus, antivirus system to see if anything's going on. You may even want to consider calling your security or your IT person to come look at your computer. But understand what's going on is you can catch an electronically transmitted disease by being careless. So I'm encouraging everybody to know their status. So with that, I'm going to end this session of the security awareness training, and I will be back for the next session soon. Again, this is Devon Carter from Cartech Consulting. Please know your status, and it's been fun. Talk to you soon.